We're very fortunate to have a lot of writings left over from the past, and that's how we can make sense of our own history and world. But for us, individually, we can do that too, and I find that it's wonderful if you can do that throughout your life. You can see how your priorities change and how your world changes. And of course, as you get older with a bit of experience and a bit more dominion of the vocabulary, we find we can express ourselves a little bit better as well. So I work a lot with teenagers, and it's one of the biggest things they have, the negative things, is that they find it hard to express what they feel. So as we get older, it's good. And writing helps us develop that skill as well, whether you're going to publish it or not. That's where we are, I suppose, with regard to psychology and writing, the connection. And that's why I thought through journaling, in a way, you discipline yourself to put down in writing what you feel, and it becomes a record of your own life for yourself, and maybe, if you're interested in that, for others, for loved ones and so forth in the future. You never know. I always start my introduction with appreciating people's time, which is the most important thing we have, as you know. It's the most precious thing we have as temporal beings. Time is the most precious thing. There's nothing that's more priceless than our own time, because once it runs out, I heard someone say once you run out of time, you can't go to the supermarket and buy more, and that's true. There's no more, and that's it. So every second, every minute of every hour of our time is quite important, and as we get older, we appreciate that more. So this hour that you gave to this particular course, and to me, I appreciate that, and I will try to make it the best possible. Eventually, some people in journaling do suggest get yourself something special, and that's good too. If you've got a special booklet, and roughly you buy yourself something that you like, something that you're not going to use other than for that. That's always handy. You can get yourself, if you like, a fancy pen or pencil, or that's fine too. Not as important as the booklet, and most of the times we use a diary, in a calendar year, but it doesn't necessarily need to be. So it's just easier to then work out and to look back at. So you can go back, 2019, this happened. So you might be able to go to that, keep it and go back to that little booklet, but it doesn't necessarily need to be that way. I mean, the first important thing about journaling is concentrating on the consistency. That's where it's at, really. That's what's going to help you. That's where the therapeutic part's going to come out, and you'll be able to squeeze out the best of it. It's a bit like exercise, isn't it? I mean, if people go to the gym once a month, that's good. It's a good start. But and they go for 3 hours, that's good that they can dedicate that time. But if you decide to do half an hour from Monday to Friday, or even 20 minutes, that's far better, because with the discipline and the routine come other things in addition to just the exercise you're doing. So this is the same. It's more like it's on your mind, knowing, yep, my journal. But if you skip too many days, then it's one of those activities that every now and then you remember and you go, oh, that's right, I've got to do that. You just want to become second nature. And to form a habit, we need to be able to do something every day, even if it's a little bit. Even if you open it and write 3 words and you close and you put away, that's far better than not opening it all. So at this stage, we'll try to concentrate on opening it every day. There's 2 entries usually, morning and night before you go to bed. The morning one sets you up for the day. The night one allows you to get any negativity out as well on page. So the book's going to be full of different things, positive and negative things. In my job, I do ask people to bring in drawings or page, especially if they're young, especially with children, of course. If they allow me to have a look at it, it actually gives me insight into their personality on what and how they do it. And like we said, there's no right or wrong way. So, and there's no good or bad. They're human constructs, especially with aesthetics. That's why there's so many different points of view, different forms of. There's people that love classical music, and there's people that love, death metal. So it's, and so, And there's a big market for it, both of them. So there you go. So as much that's how different we are, and that's wonderful that we're like that. Imagine how boring it would be if everyone liked the same thing. So, but there is a consensus, isn't there, of beauty, isn't there? There is like if you look at a picture of someone, they say, oh, they're good looking, or they're beautiful. Doesn't matter what culture they're from, you can sense there's an essence of beauty that you go, yeah, they're. And I think we share that as humans, you know. Everyone knows that a sunset is beautiful, you know, and so forth. And we also know what's not a lot of the time. So there's a framework, but within that framework, we all bring our personal perspective. So that diary is for you. So don't worry about anything yet. If one day you decide to publish it or you become very famous and someone else wants to publish it, don't worry, they'll be fixing it up and making it nice and neat and so forth. And I always talk about, I think I've talked about with some people, you know, one of my favourite, I love David Hume, a Scottish philosopher from the 1700s, and Scotland had some wonderful writers, of course, you know, and I think there's a reason for that, and historically speaking, that we won't get into now, but sometimes within the struggle, a lot of important artwork comes out, and sometimes, well, I think there's the political and geographical struggle that maybe Scotland had and at the time and so forth, like many other smaller countries and so forth. But there's also the individual struggle. There's Van Gogh and Beethoven, all these people that have had very difficult lives and struggled with mental health and so forth, and have created some beautiful works of art. That's what the journal does. It's not only about beautiful things, it's also about the struggle, and that because it's part of our lives. And usually the people that do have that struggle are the people that change the world in one way or another. And so you look at it in that way, that it's your own personal life and history onto paper, and you can put anything you want because it's only for you. If one day you wish to share it, that's going to be totally up to you, and that liberates you. That liberates us when we start writing. Because some things are quite embarrassing, you know, for even ourselves to say out loud or to write things we may have thought or done or regrets. But as we go along, journaling gives us the space, the privacy, and the motivation to be able to do that. That's why, with regards to journals, it's important to take it on board as almost like a mini life that's made up with words. And some of them may not be pretty, but that's what makes life, the struggle and the happiness. So we don't want to concentrate only on one, because then it wouldn't be an accurate view of where we are. So once you have the pen, the book, you decide to do 2 entries a day. For the morning one, it's good to have a reflection to start off with, maybe on how you feel, on the state of the world, maybe something that comes up, because we usually wake up in a certain state of mind, don't we, depending on how we've slept and so forth. And so we might decide to be a little bit negative, we decide to be a little bit positive. That's fine. Just get it out. Once it's out on paper, and because as we write, of course we don't write as fast as we can think, we're slowing down our thinking. And when we slow down our thinking, you make sense more of things. So what happens is that you might be writing something negative. I feel really bad. I had a terrible night's sleep. I'm feeling a little bit sad over such and such. You might start writing something like that. But remember, it takes a while to write it. It's easy to say. I just said it in a couple of seconds. But as you're writing it, you're slowing down your thought. We are slowing down our thoughts. But we're also detaching ourselves from the thought, because the writing almost becomes a different entity outside of us, because we're getting it out. You get it out of your unconscious. Once it's out there, it's on paper, it becomes, it changes shape. It's not part of the unconscious anymore, it's part of your conscious. So it's already changed, and it's already been like a metamorphosis with regards to how we felt about that. Later on, as you go along, you might go back to that thought and read and go, oh yeah, I remember when I felt that way, but maybe it was a bit over dramatic or whatever. But it doesn't matter at the time. You're just using it to slow down your thought in order to detach yourself. Because that's really, if you talk to any psychologist, you'll find that that's 90% of our work is trying to get people to detach themselves from their feelings. Because a lot of the time, our worries, our past worries and our future worries are things that we can't do much about, really. So the thinking about that problem's there. The only thing we can do, we can't change the fact, but what we can do is change the way we feel about it. And the only way to do that is to change the way you think about it, because that's what triggers the feeling. So through writing, you're doing the hardest thing of all. Those people that can do that through meditation or mindfulness and are quite good at in stressful situations and can take control and can lead sometimes. We've all known stories and real stories of survival where someone's taken control and saved people's lives and so forth. The only thing they're doing is they're still in the same situation, but they're detaching how they feel with their thought, because then they can make a clinical decision. Sometimes they're tough decisions, but it's the right decision. The only way to do that is by not being emotional about it. And so that's the beauty of journaling. We learn how to do that. It's happened to me. I've read a book when I was young, then I've reread it and it's totally different.
Yeah.
You get certain things, or you might not like it more, or you might like it more. But especially with more profound or philosophical novels or books or movies, we just have that second chance of really thinking about it. You're kind of like slowing down. Yeah. The best definition of philosophy was given to my philosophy teacher in the first lecture he did, and he told us what his philosophy teacher told him in the first lecture he had, and that was that philosophy is reading slowly. And I still think that that's the best definition, you know. And it's a bit like the best definition of intelligence and education is still by Socrates 2,500 years ago. I know nothing, you know. It's still the best definition of where we're really at in a way. But yeah, I found that interesting, and I didn't get it at the time, and now I do. And you'll find that when you reread a passage of a novel, or if you like philosophy, you know, or whatever it may be, when you slow it down and you read each word that the author wrote, you start getting it a little bit more. Yeah, because you're not just rushing through. And that's the same with our thoughts. So slow it down. And in therapy, we try to work on this with different techniques. But if you can get into journaling, then that's half the battle, because it's what's needed to start off with. And then at nighttime, of course, you're putting things down, not taking them to bed, not taking them to sleep. And you can always, and you start thinking about something when you're in bed, you've got your journal to say, you know what, I'm not going to think about this. I'm going to put in my journal, and it's out, and you go back to bed. Wonderful.